Good evening, welcome everyone and all to the Pirelli tier then tonight for round number 2. Of course, then, which sees us head to, well, obviously Austria, the Styrian mountains based in Styria, of course. And yep, we are back then for hopefully what will be another entertaining season then. I believe this is season 5, it is indeed, of the Pirelli tier, of course, and yeah, looking forward hopefully to another exciting season. Last time out, whilst I wasn't here myself to do the commentary, um, well, obviously they did race in Bahrain. Even though, shouldn't it be Spain tonight? Are we actually racing at the right track? Why isn't it Spain? Bit confused, but yeah. Maybe someone got the calendar mixed up there. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, Austria. Then for round 2. Last time out, though, Appledorn took the win with 30 points, followed by Dan second with second and the fastest lap. And then we had Ralphie in third. Fourth was Charlie Harris. Then fifth, we had Neil. So those are the drivers. Okay, so we're going through quickly. Just need to do that actually. Give it a sec. Right, there we go. That's a little bit better. I'm also going to adjust my volume headset quickly. Probably should have done this a little bit earlier. Just so it's down to the normal 23 levels. I'm not sure whether the levels of commentary, the levels of engine volume is going to be the same as 2023, so we might have to change that as the season goes on, in case the cars sound a bit too loud or anything on your screen. Anyway, we do have cars taking out then onto the road, onto the track, and it is Piers then first out then here tonight, or this evening, in then the tier, followed by Bob. Obviously, Piers is on the intermediate compound tyre, therefore he will be a little bit slower to affect. Ultimately, that is the one thing Piers will be. Not sure if, well, in real life you wouldn't do that. In fact, in real life you'd get a penalty for that. Just, I think, like Charles Leclerc did in Canada. Or certainly was a reprimand, actually. So, yeah, that is something I don't really agree with in terms of drivers going out on the intermediates, due to, obviously, as I say, you wouldn't do it in real life if the track wasn't wet. But anyway, Bob is going to be the first driver then to begin a lap around then, obviously, this Austrian track, the Red Bull Ring, and up through turns 1, keeps it within the track boundaries at turn 1, at Lauder Curb, I'm pretty sure that's called. Into then turn 2, taken pretty much flat out, non-existent in a Formula 1 car, then into 3, shift down the gears into second or third, and then open up the exit as you head then towards turn 4, which is a downhill braking zone, can easily catch you out. Also in the race, you've got to be careful going side by side here, especially if you want to go around the outside. Very easy for the inside car to understeer into you, which ultimately, yeah, is a bit problematic. Turn 6, 7 then, into 8, then, and 9, then up over the crest, down the hill, into turn 10, and then into turn 11, flick it into the final corner, and what is this lap time going to be from Manzanar Bob? Crosses line, it's a 1:04.4, and that's not a bad lap on mediums, actually. That's a very good, strong start by Manzanar Bob, a very strong start, in fact, on a set of medium tyres. A 1:04.4 is indeed. So Stuart goes currently P2, but has invalidated. So Tom's would have been the next one who's starting a lap. Lucky Egg then coming through then the middle sector, and through the middle sector up over the hill, and what's his lap time gonna be? Is on softs, so gonna be well, up there with Stewart in terms of lap time, probably, and Bob, but it's a 106.4, so a little bit off actually the pace there. Next up is Lange, 45.3 middle sector. Let's see what he does as he crosses the line now. Goes into third, so two Alpines only, third and then fourth here at the moment. Here is Appledorn. He does got a bit of traffic ahead of him. Hopefully the McLaren driver stays nicely out of the way. Does indeed. 44.9 middle sector, which isn't actually that much faster than where I believe Lange was so far. Mafasa currently done a good lap actually in third, even though he did say he was going to be slow, but that's not a bad lap, you know, to be P3 with a 105.3. Here is Appledorn crossing the line then. It's a 104.8, but yeah, that standout lap so far is obviously Man's Not Bob with that 104.4 on a set of medium compound tyres. Even though those running mediums have not come really anywhere close to that sort of lap time. In fact, Mafasa is the other driver to have done a set of times on the mediums. So far, you'd have to say that time from Bob is standing up quite well in this early phase of qualifying. There is still obviously 12 minutes left to run here in the qualifying session. Down the hill into four then for Ralphie, and into then turn 6. Let's see what his middle sector's saying. So far, well, that's a 44.8, which is pretty good. It's about a tenth quicker than where Appledorn is at, so I think this could be on track to beat the two Haas drivers. Is it going to beat, obviously, Man's Not Bob? That's the big question. And crosses the line, doesn't beat either Haas drivers, so lost maybe a little bit in the middle final sector. There's Lucky Eggs out of the session, so that's going to see him most likely start last place in here. Here's Haas J. Nagel, who is in 20th at the moment, currently last, otherwise known as. Going to come around the final corner now, and as he does so, can he go above Bob? Nope, only manages P6, so still waiting on a lap that can obviously beat Bob's time, which is a very, very strong lap time by the looks of it. So here is Elliot then. Elliot currently on his first flying lap. Bit of a snap of oversteer before running off actually over track. Very fortunate not to have invalidated his lap there, as he goes down then the hill into the final corner, flicks the car in. What is this lap time going to be? It's going to be a 105.3, so sort of, well, P6 at the moment. So another 105.3, that's the fourth 105.3 we've seen so far today. And yeah, still no one at the moment with a lap time beating Bob's, which is, well, on the set of medium, so it is encouraging. Obviously, it is only 3 tenths at the moment between them all, or between the leader and P2, as Stewart is back out there on an out lap, so he's going to be beginning his lap very shortly. I believe he's the Haas ahead of the Williams driver Piano Jam at the moment, and we will go see what he can do. Before that, we'll see what Charlie Harris does. So Stewart darts out the way as he's about to begin his lap. So round the final corner for Piano Jam, just keeping it within the track limits there, and that is a 105.9. So how about Charlie Harris as he's finishing off his lap? And it says a purple middle sector, so this might be finally the lap that actually moves someone ahead of Man's Not Bob. if it is, and it is quite nicely up on the likes of Stewart, on the likes of Appledom's middle sectors. They were doing about 45 zeros to a 43s, and does go quicker than, obviously, Stewart and Appledom, but doesn't manage to beat still, obviously, Man's Not Bob, who still has the lap time of the day so far on that set of medium compound tyres. And now Stewart is 2 tenths up so far, so he is doing a nice improvement out there. Needs about 3 tenths in total, but let's see what he can do in the final sector. Not the purple sector, of course. That's still with Charlie, but as he's going to cross the line now, is this going to go onto provisional pole? It is by 39 thousandths of a second, so does move himself onto provisional pole for now, at least. So that is at least some hope. And Mufasa has improved by a reasonable margin, moved himself up into the top 5. Is he on another lap? I don't think he is. No, he's not. So here's Neil as he's about to finish off his lap. Let's see where this one puts himself. Puts him into P7. So a decent effort by him. Now, Brian is also on a attempt and a push lap. Currently is over a second and a half off the pace, but is improving by a tenth in the first sector at least. So that's at least something to be positive about. Let's see how his middle sector, of course, develops, as that's going to be important to see. And middle sector's up by 4 tenths, so this would see him probably jump into, I think, 12th here at the moment, maybe a bit higher. Might even go up as high as 9th if he can hook up this final sector of a lap, or even actually 8th is in reach. And in fact, no, top 5 is in reach. So there you go, that's a lovely attempt by him. Now, here is Man's Not Bob. First sector, only 24 thousandths of improvement, but it is still an improvement. Bear that in mind. It's not obviously a bad improvement. Let's see what his middle sector is saying. He's up by now a further 2 tenths then here through the middle part of the lap. So into the final sector we come, over the crest, down the hill, into the final 2 corners on the lap. Flicks the car into the final corner. Is this going to move him back onto provisional pole and ahead of the field? Indeed, you bet it is. Improves by 2.5 tenths almost. And that puts then Man's Not Bob back onto provisional pole for now. And moves himself back ahead of Stewart then in the Haas. So that's a decent lap by him. Now, is Appledom on a attempt lap? I don't think he is, because he's not used any of his battery. So he might have tried to do an attempt and maybe he's backed out somewhere. But then we will see what Gavin is doing, because Gavin is on a push lap by the looks of it. He's up by about a tenth in the first sector. Big lock up there for the Mercedes man, seeing all that white puff of smoke come out of his front right tyre, which certainly, in this game, I'm not sure if you can flat spot the tyres, but it certainly does add a lot of wear now to the tyre compound. So every time you flat spot or you make a mistake, you're going to be adding a lot more wear onto your tyres. So those errors certainly won't help his tyre degradation. At least in the race, probably be a bit more critical, probably not so much in qualifying, but did therefore go slower than his previous effort. Which, did that have anything to do with it? I'm not entirely sure. Elliot is now restarted a lap. He's now on his second attempt. So Elliot currently is 11th with a 105.3. Currently 46 thousandths in the first sector down. So that's obviously got some time to find. As Dan pops himself up into the top 3. But right now, it is Man's Not Bob who is ahead of the field in first place. Had an excellent run on the mediums, and, well, not a brilliant run on softs, I wouldn't say. Not like a bad run on softs either, but you know what I mean. 2 tenths, in theory, is a lot of time around here, but I do believe there's more time to come in Man's Not Bob's locker. I do think there's probably another 2 temps, maybe even 3 temps we could see from him. Anyway, here's Elliot finishing off his run here on this attempt. Does improve, goes back ahead of his teammate, and moves himself up into 6th with a 1:04.7. Now, does he have enough time to get round? 4 minutes on the clock, probably does. Given it's especially a very tight turnaround here, or, you know, short lap, even though he doesn't even get a move on, because he won't have much time coming back into the pits. Effectively, you need about 1:30 to be out the pits by around here. Maybe a little bit, well, maybe a little bit more, I would say, ideally. Maybe a 1:40. If you're not out of pits by then, you're pretty much in a bit of trouble. You could be. So, who's just begun their outlaps? So we've got Mufasa and we've got Rob, I believe, that have begun their outlaps. But Brian is also on an outlap, and so is Man's Not Bob. So, right, where are them two? So Mufasa and Bob are actually pretty much on the same piece of track, actually. So here's then, obviously, Brian. Let's see what Brian can do first. Then, give him the privilege. Being inside the top 7 at the moment, he is within, well, you could say striking distance of pole position today. Obviously, does need, though, about a 8/10th improvement if he does want to get onto pole. So, first sector, not improving. So, immediately, he's a 10th down, which is not going to be, well, enough to go on to provisional pole by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see what his middle sector is going to be, and I think he's backed out, so he has indeed. Right, here's Man's Not Bob starting then his final run, and he's a 10th up to the good. I did say he had more time, and indeed he does. So he's already found a 10th, and let's see what he can do then through then this middle part of the lap. So this is the lap then. Everyone is going to have to chase in this final part of qualifying in order to beat Man's Not Bob then here, or just Bob, might as well call him, on to pole position. And 2 tenths up then through the middle sector. So can he just find that final 10th, which I think if he does, that probably puts him a little bit out of distance for the others and probably puts him into a safe region. Slides it through the final corner, but unfortunately for Bob has invalidated, and it would have been a 10th of an improvement in the end, but couldn't hang on to it through the final corner of the lap. Now let's see what Charlie Harris is doing. Can he maybe challenge for pole today? Bit of a snap as well. Looks like not an easy car to drive. 88 thousandths up through the middle sector, then on his own personal best, but this is not going to be towards the pole position, but we'll put him a little bit more comfortable in that 4th position at the moment. Does manage to keep it within the track limits and crosses the line now, goes into the 1:04.5s. So that's a very decent effort for him. Mufasa is on a 1:04.8, so he's improved as well. Gets himself ahead of Brian then here. Now, what is Stewart saying? He's currently right now, obviously, Bob's closest challenger for the pole at the current present moment. However, can he maybe go on to pole and snatch this pole position away from then Bob? Here he goes to the line, misses out on pole by about a 10th and a half. But obviously, it's not over yet. You've got Dan still to come. Has improved on his first sector then here. So this then is, well, the do or die lap really. Appledorm's crossed the line, doesn't beat his teammate, but does join him in P3 and puts then 2 of the Haas drivers into the top 3 at least. Dandan is improving by about 10th and a half. Right now is looking good. Can he find, though, another about 10th, roughly, a 10th and a half? Still, he'd have to find in this final part of the lap in order to take the pole position. Could he find that time? Is he going to find it? Yes, he is. And he's just beaten Bob to the pole position by, well, effectively 50, more than 50 thousandths, 60-ish thousandths, I think it is, just under 59 thousandths overall. Beats Bob to pole position, so it is Dandan, the McLaren, on pole in the McLaren. Then it's Man's Not Bob second, Stewart in third, and Appledorn fourth, with Charlie Harris rounding out the top five here at Austria in the Styrian Mountains. And we'll go through the rest of the grid in a very short while. Right, forgot the what you call it. Hopefully there's a formation up on. Just having a drink, carbos. Otherwise we can't go through the rest of the grid order, which is a bit of a shame. Right, let me just. In fact, I would have a grid order anyway on the what you call it. Hopefully we can just go through the grid order somewhere quickly. Right, so the grid order for today for qualifying is exactly this then. So we've got Dandan on pole, followed by Man's Not Bob. Then it's Stewart in third. Fourth is Appledorn. Fifth is Charlie Harris, followed by Neil in sixth. Seventh is Elliot. Then it's Mafasa in eighth. Then ninth is Robbo, and rounding out the top 10 we have Brian. Then in 11th we have Tom. Then it'll be 12th Ralphie. 13th we have Gavin. 14th we have Haas Nagel. Then it is Morgan in 15th, Piano Jam in 16th, then it's Lange in 17th, followed by Lucky Egg and Vigo in 18th and 19th, and Piers is at the back of the grid then tonight for today's qualifying. So those are your grid order for today, of course. And let's see then, as the lights come on, and it's, well, eyes to the lights, foots to the floor, and it's then lights out and away we go then. And it's a good start by Dandan, who takes then the lead and holds off then into turn one, followed by Man's Not Bob. Has everyone else got through cleanly? And you'd have to say, so far, yes, they have. As we see a little bit of internet connection issues there for, I think, the Red Bull of Neil. But other than that, no real issues otherwise. And everyone has gotten away nice and cleanly as they head then on their way down then into turn four. As we see then Tom trying to hang it around the outside of Neil to take the position away from the Red Bull driver then here for what would be 8th position. And in the end, cannot do so. So Neil holds on to 8th, Meanwhile, Robbo is in 7th and 6th is Elliott. So, as they come around the first tour of the Austrian track so far, it is Dandan leading the way from Bob, then Appledom, Stewart in 4th, then Charlie Harris 5th, 6th is Elliott, then 7th is Robbo. But so far, haven't built a 1 second gap, which for obviously Man's Not Bob means he gets the DRS, and therefore this gives him the slipstream, gives him that extra straight line speed in kilometers per hour. Doesn't go for the move into 3, but he will get a better exit with still the DRS slipstream effect as well into 4. Is he going to go for it? Is he going to send a lunge down the inside into turn 4? Little bit of contact between the race leader and P2, but in the end, just the tiniest of contact between them, nothing major, and Bob takes the position away from then Dandan to become the new race leader then here on this race. As then Dandan has a snap of oversteer, this is going to leave him vulnerable now to attack by obviously Appledom, but also does mean he falls a little bit outside the range of slipstream for obviously for Man's Not Bob, but now he gets that toe and now gets the DRS back to his advantage then here in this race, and he can now try and repay Man's Not Bob the favour then as they head back on down the hill. Now, does Dandan do the same as what Bob did, as they all have a little bit of a look up into 3? Not quite going for it though. But I think actually Bob got the better exit and probably is going to be okay as they head down the hill then here, as there is a position swap going on behind. It's Charlie Harris taking then Stewart's position away from him, as Stewart then loses 4th place to Charlie Harris. So far, these drivers have built a bit of a lead over Robbo, which is good for them because these drivers now can work a little bit as a team, you could say, to try and move themselves up the order. Mufasa, he's dropped actually a little bit back actually overall. And then you got Morgan in 11th. Right now with already a time penalty, so not good for his race, be having a penalty so early on. Anyway, we're going to see another switch of position here. This time it is Appledom making the move on on Dandan, and swoops around the outside, takes then P2 away from then Dandan, who so far has struggled a little bit early on in this race. And it is Dandan then falling a little bit behind here. So right now Bob though won't mind that too much. However, is Appledom the quicker of the two drivers that you wouldn't want to have behind you? Who knows? Either way, Appledom making good progress through the field and is already up from 3rd into 2nd place in here. So DRS for Appledom then here, as we see then Man's Not Bob obviously charging, harvesting his battery. And good thing is battery does obviously recharge pretty quickly in this game, so you can recharge your battery fairly quickly, as we see then Robbo coming under a bit of pressure by Elliott. Elliott having a little look, trying to take the position away. But right now, you would have to say Robbo is a bit of a, having a bit of a train behind him at the moment. And this train runs practically all the way down to 15th. But it is holding up, obviously, the field behind him, as Dandan's just been passed, and in fact Dandan's into the pits. So Dandan making an early stop here. I'm not entirely sure why that could be. What is Dandan's strategy? So he's already deciding to give up the tyres, and in fact he's come in for a wing change. So he's decided whatever reason, obviously that wing needed changing, obviously would have had some damage on it, and maybe that damage was unsustainable, hence his slower pace. But that has now put him down into, well, practically last place in the field, in the pecking order, which is not ideal for the McLaren driver. But he is on the hards now, so is he going for what will be a clear two-stop strategy? It probably would seem like it. I mean, he would surely have to go for the two-stop from there. I don't think he would be able to make the hards last that long. Obviously, 30 laps on a set of hards. I know this track probably it is doable, in the game at least, but yeah, I wouldn't say it'd be ideal to do it, actually. I think he'll lose too much time in the process. Anyhow, now that's obviously means there's a second between race leader and second and third place, as we see Stuart in the background trying to make a move. We have seen Appledorn take the lead of the Grand Prix. Now, can Man's Not Bob get back at obviously Appledorn here as quickly, or is he gonna have to sit behind the Haas for a lap or two? I think he's gonna have to sit behind because he's certainly not going to be making the move from back there, especially not on, well, lap 7 of the race, and we're already 7 laps in. But here we go then, Elliott still trying to put the pressure on Robbo, who's holding them up very much, and this will be very annoying, especially to some drivers behind who probably might feel they can go a bit faster at the moment. Obviously, it is only 7 laps into the race, but yeah, for obviously Robbo, he is being a huge train. He's got the biggest train of cars behind him at the moment. As I say, this train of cars all the way stretching right now down to 13th, even down to 15th even in the background if them cars get into the stretch, and even down to probably 17th if they all just close a little bit further up. But yeah, for Elliott, just not making the pass. But is Vigo going to make the pass? Vigo going for it then here. Vigo has taken then obviously Elliott. But Elliott then on the inside manages to stick it out for now, and manages to keep the position and get that position back. So Vigo, even himself, is stuck in this DRS train at the moment. And he's probably the main one. If he can get through on these cars, it certainly might make his life a lot easier, because I feel Vigo, well, he certainly probably reserved it from a higher tier, usually with a bit more pace, usually the higher tiers do have, and maybe he's one of them drivers that probably, if he can get past, it's going to make his race a little bit here. And is he going to get past Elliott? It looks like he is. And that is then Elliott dispatched now for Vigo. So Vigo only got to clear then, obviously, the likes of Robbo, and then he can go set on his own mission to catch up to, obviously, Mans, Not Bob, and obviously Appledorn even. And Appledorn's actually pulling out a little bit of a lead. He's got that gap up to 2 seconds now, 2.2 I make it. So that's a good effort by then the Appledorn. And we do have a yellow flag out in the final sector 3 at the moment, but that's quickly been dispatched. But here we go then, down the hill on the brakes. It is Vigo going to take the position away then from, obviously, Robbo. Still Robbo trying to hold with him, but can't do it. Goes into the gravel, dipping a wheel in there. Vigo does have a time penalty also for good measure, so I think he probably isn't in the hunt for the win here, given his time penalty situation now. But can he maybe go and get a podium? I think he probably can, and I think he probably will. But obviously, he has dispatched those cars, and still a huge train still following then at the moment. Obviously, Robbo does have a bit of DRS, which is helping. Helps, obviously, Robbo to defend and keep ahead of this pack, and especially more so keep ahead of Elliott, who he's been fighting so far with the entire race so far today. As we see Ralphie and Tom Tom on the inside, Ralphie on the outside. Ralphie holds his line, and Ralphie keeps the position in ninth. As we've now got a safety car, so safety car has been deployed, and actually this comes at the perfect timing then for the medium runners, who can now all stop and put on the hards. So for those on mediums, this is great timing. For those on hards, not so much, but it is our first safety car of the day. But yeah, we're already 11 laps in, and haven't really, I don't feel, raced that much, or like, you know, I feel like it's gone very, very quickly, these 11 laps overall, if you know what I mean. 'Cause we've, started at 8, didn't we? And it's only 8:37. I mean, that's very, very quick, compared to F123 at least. I just feel like if, probably be a whole minute slower on the older game, but yeah, on this game, certainly a lot quicker in terms of the, like, how quick the laps go. They go just in a blink of the eye at the moment, it feels. So here we go then, the safety car coming back in this lap. Of course, Appledorn currently leads the pack and does have prerogative of win to go. So it is his choice, of course. So I think he's going to go now, and he is indeed. So there we go. So Appledorn has gone then, and Charlie Harris immediately picks up a 3-second time penalty. Can he though stay with then the race leader? Obviously does have to stay within 1 second if he wants the DRS on the next lap, and currently Appledorn's doing a very good job to pull away a little bit of a gap though here in order to try and breach that 1 second barrier to break the DRS obviously from Charlie Harris at least. But let's see how the rest of the lap goes for those drivers though behind. Man's Not Bob got a few cars to clear at least in terms of getting past Lucky Egg, and that's immediately going to drop obviously Man's Not Bob out of that 1 second window, not only to Charlie but he's going to drop him outside the DRS window to then obviously Appledorn. But there we go, Man's Not Bob getting through, and that is then Man's Not Bob through on Lucky Egg, as then Stewart gonna do the same, follow him through straight away without hesitation. Obviously Lucky Egg not really putting up much resistance to them, obviously pretty wise to doing that, obviously given that Lucky Egg is obviously right now probably not in a fight with this group. He's trying to hold on and fight the drivers a little bit behind him on the same tyre life strategy, such as Hasnagel, Piers and obviously himself then. As they go up the hill, can then Lucky Egg defend against Hasnagel, who's on the same tyre life of Compound? At the moment you'd have to say he does have the DRS to help him out with this defence then manoeuvre. And in the end, it is going to be then Hasnagel getting ahead. But Lucky Egg, beautiful move here if he can get this done to hold on to what would be P6 in the race. They're still side by side as they go through turn number 6 into 7. Then Robbo sees an opportunity, goes down the inside, takes the move away from then Hasnagel, and is going to immediately then take the position off as well. Then Lucky Egg as Dan next one to go through on Hasnagel. So Hasnagel now suffering a little bit due to that move, which was, well, went from defence, from being overtaken to doing the overtaking for Lucky Egg, and Lucky Egg still suffering, but so is also his rivals around him, as they all tumbling down the order. These drivers have stayed out on though these much older tyres on the hards, and there's literally nothing they can do. They have literally no answer to those on the fresher hards at the moment, as Piers and I think that might be Mafasa in the barrier. So both Ferraris having a nightmare race out there then, and that is not good for them to ultimately, them two will be thoroughly disappointed due to obviously, well, at the moment how their race is going, but it can obviously all change. Still a long way to go. We've got still another half of this race to come as we now get to the half race distance. So at a halfway point, lap 17 of 36, it is right now Charlie Harris who is putting Appledorn under the pressure to try and take the lead. Charlie Harris does have DRS. Right now Appledorn doesn't. Charlie Harris going onto the grass, trying to make his move the long way round. Now, that was, in my opinion, very, very aggressive. Very, very brave, though, to use, well, not just all of the road, but all the road and a bit more. Like, yeah, that was a really wild move from Charlie Harris to take the lead. But he is into the lead of the race, and is on, well, lap 6. However, that might also pick him up warnings, and the more of those warnings he gets, he's already got a 3 seconds, so he needs to be kind of careful in terms of how many warnings he gets. Appledorn doesn't. Obviously, Appledorn just needs to try and get away from his rival. Appledorn, though, back ahead and back into the lead as they get to the braking zone of turn 3. But it is going to be, again, Charlie Harris with the DRS. Charlie Harris, can he respond once again to try and get past the Haas driver, this time too far back? And it is then Charlie Harris having to sit behind and have his tyres take a bit of that punishment in the turbulence of the Haas car to try and hold on through the corners. That dirty air now that will be coming off will be negatively affecting him, overheating his tyres and causing him potentially to lose tyre wear and grip. Meanwhile, for Appledorn, that's the perfect situation. You don't want to be helping the car out behind you. You kind of want to be affecting them a little bit in terms of that essence. So let's see what goes on here. Right, Charlie Harris with the DRS is within half a second, but half a second, well, we saw yesterday, at least for Max Verstappen, you know, and Lando Norris, really wasn't enough for Lando. He needed probably a bit more than that half a second overall to get within the striking distance, because Max at least was getting great launches off turn 1, and there we go. Appledorn got a great launch there off turn 1, and you know, if you can just do that around this track, make sure you're not really being threatened into turn 3. I think, you know, it's a really easy track to hold on to your position at, if I'm being brutally honest. Probably as easy as Monaco in that essence, because there's only, well, okay, it probably is more overtaking opportunities, but there is not many actually when you think of it. Obviously, you got turn 3 as the predominant one, turn 4 as well, but other than that, it is pretty much not a great track for, I don't think, racing in that essence. There are some other overtaking opportunities, having said that. We saw a brilliant move from Oscar Piastri yesterday. Here we go then for Charlie Harris up into turn number 3, going side by side with then the Haas driver. Does have a double dose of DRS here for good measure. And look at Man's Not Bob. He's going to also be coming through. There is Man's Not Bob. Man's Not Bob sends it down the inside. Have they given each other enough room? Yes, they have just about. This will allow Appledorn to come a little bit back out. And then Man's Not Bob, 16 laps to go. Then here. And the top 3 have once again just changed. Appledorn down then into a net P2. Charlie Harris up into the race lead. It is Man's Not Bob, though, in second place. So, Man's Not Bob will be looking to maybe get through then here to take the race lead on this lap around. Let's see if he can do just that. So here we go. We're going to have the reverse effect of what we saw on the last lap. This time it's going to be Appledorn and Man's Not Bob going for it. And a little bit of contact between Charlie and Bob. That kind of cost Charlie dearly because it just allowed Appledorn to sail through back into the race lead. And Appledorn has picked up now a time penalty, 3 seconds of his own. So currently the only driver inside the top 3 without a time penalty, or top 5 without a penalty, is then obviously Man's Not Bob. Everyone else will go through the penalty, so it's 3 seconds for everyone else. Pretty much also the only driver without more than 3 is Elliott with 9 seconds. He's been firing away with Robbo all race long, and that fight still continues right now with Dandan also involved. Right now Dandan up into 6th place, so he's making an ever so slight recovery of his race. Of course, it has been a recovery race ever since he had to come in for that pit stop to change his front wing. So Appledorm now into the lead. It is Bob now second, Vigo into third, and Charlie Harris down into fifth. Then here he's lost a little bit of time, more than a little bit, time and position he's lost. So that's not ideal for Charlie Harris, who is now down into fifth with about 14-15 laps to go. But the one sitting pretty here is right now Man's Not Bob, who is obviously in second without a penalty as well, which therefore just puts the pressure on his rivals to be and drive a little bit cleaner. But the trouble is also when you drive a little bit cleaner, when you certainly driving, with that in mind to be, well, inside the track limits all the time now, which they've got to be in order to try and hope Bob doesn't get obviously does get a penalty at some point. Difficulty is for them drivers, they've obviously got to, how can I put it, them drivers have got to drive a little bit slower in a sense, I would say. But we see Vigo down the inside, and this is going to allow Bob an opportunity here to take also Appledorm. Beautiful move by Vigo. What a move that was by the Mercedes driver to take then the lead of the race. So a beautiful move down the inside on two cars. As is someone out there? Did I just see someone parked on the side of the road? I think I might have seen it. Not sure if that's Lucky Egg or Gavin, who it was parked on the side of the road. It's certainly someone. I don't think it will affect the race in terms of, whether or not we get a safety car. I think safety car isn't going to come out, because if it was, we would have seen that by now. But yeah, it is causing a yellow flag in that first part of Sector 1 and Sector 2 and Sector 3. Anyway, Vigo right now defending then against, obviously, then Appledorm. Appledorm with DRS, Bob with DRS, Bob then going around the outside then here of Vigo. Vigo still got his front wing there, but on the exit in the end, bit too far behind in order to fight that one, and has to settle for then obviously second place behind then the new race leader of Bob, who started obviously this race from the front row and right now is on his way to what looking like a increasing chance of victory with just over 10 laps of racing to go. So here comes Vigo at him again. Vigo going for the outside, putting him under pressure into one, but has that compromised Vigo a little bit then here? Because he's certainly got obviously the Haas driver of Appledorm on his tail, and it's going to allow then Appledorm to go up the inside. But has Appledorm overcooked it? Indeed he has. He's almost off into the barrier there at turn one, and yeah, he's going to lose a lot of time. But the only good thing for obviously Appledorm, he obviously will probably be easily able to catch back up to this pack, given the fact they're fighting so hard. And therefore, for obviously Appledorm, he can still go and win this race potentially. It's not over yet for him, as we see then Vigo and Appledorm, Bob, both fighting out. They're still side by side as they go through the final corner. In the end, Vigo can't go side by side through, there has to back out. But certainly great racing this is at the front of the field for what is the race win. 10 laps to go then here in today's race, and well, it is still Bob the favourite. As I say, the more time goes on, the higher probably Bob's chances also get in terms of securing the victory, due to the fact, obviously, as I said, Bob doesn't have a penalty, whereas the rest of them do, and therefore the rest of them have more chance to pick up warnings, even before Bob does get his first penalty, ultimately. But here is Vigo going around the outside on then, obviously, Man's Not Bob this time got the inside line for turn 6. Can Bob hold it around the outside. This time, no, not quite in the end. This time, Vigo having a little bit too much on then the Aston Martin driver and takes then the position away in order to move himself up into first place. But obviously, for Bob, doesn't need to worry. Just doesn't need to make a mistake ultimately, and the race win is his. That is as simple as I can put it. As one of the Ferraris at the back of the grid, I think that is Mafasa, has had a moment. Anyway, down the inside, Bob goes, having a look, put in then the driver at pressure, and Charlie's just had a off moment there, not ideal. Little bit of contact between the two. Is there going to be more contact into turn 4? No, not quite, but it's only wheel to wheel. Hopefully neither of them's got a puncture. Vigo darts a little bit into the mirrors, maybe to say, hey, what was that? Potentially from Bob, not entirely sure though. Maybe just trying to spook him into maybe trying to make a mistake, but for Bob, back up into the race lead. Mafasa day has gone from, well, bad to disastrous, picking up a 10-second penalty. And, well, I think points are still given out to all positions. Maybe he's attempting a fastest lap now, late on into this one, potentially. Obviously, that could be what his aim is to do, just to pick up an extra point, if he can do so. Anyway, side by side again still. And you know what I'm thinking? When is this going to end in tears for one of these drivers? Because surely it is at some stage. They're battling so hard. In a sense, also, when does, Bob actually try and just let some of these drivers go and decide, you know what, I don't want to fight them anymore. I'm just going to sit behind them and win the race that way. If that makes sense. Because I just fear for Bob at the moment being taken out. I'm not saying he should win the race, but or one of them being taken out, or maybe multiple of them being taken out. It really is possible. We saw what happened yesterday with obviously Max and Lando, and I won't go too much onto that, but sometimes when you battle that hard, okay, whilst it can be very fun in the moment and be very respectful, so long as you keep it respectful and clean, it's all good, but it can easily go wrong. It doesn't take also much for it to go wrong. But anyway, we're going into turn 3 again, side by side. This time it is Manzanos Bob on the inside. It is Vigo on the outside. Vigo defends the inside line. Manzanos Bob trying to go for it down the inside. Is this going to be contact between any of them? No. Vigo just about defends the line and just about holds on in first place, ahead of now Stewart, who now moves himself up into then second, ahead of Manzanos Bob. Manzanos Bob, though, is wide, and this has actually allowed Vigo to just pull out his legs a little bit here and get out of then almost 1 second. So it's going to be important for now, obviously, for Stewart to keep within that 1 second, especially for those behind. Because soon as you break that toe, it really does help the driver in front, especially if these drivers battle away. And this is what I mean by it could cost someone a victory. In the end, Manzanos Bob has managed to get back within 7.5 tenths, but it is still looks good for Vigo. It's now back down to half a second, which I think is going to be the region Manzanos Bob would like to keep that gap between everyone. I think, you know what, if I was Bob, I would also want to keep everyone tied up like this at the moment. You don't want to let Vigo get away, especially given he's only got a 3 second at the moment. So he could still pull out that 3 seconds and go on to win this one. As we see Bob take the race lead down the inside and back into the lead of the race. So Here's Charlie Harris up the inside of Stewart. As a little bit of contact between them, as we see also Vigo retaking the lead, or trying to at least. Who's got the DRS here? I think it is Manzanon. Bob got the DRS over Vigo then, but can Vigo go for it? And they've gone for it. Contact between the three, just about managing to keep it clean then, as they now go 5, then almost into 1. This is fantastic battling, but very, very close to being maybe a little bit over the limit between it all with each other. And I tell you what, if they are over the limit, we've got another battle, cracking battle, going on directly behind them for right now what is 6th and 7th even. So yeah, you know what, guys, if you want to take each other out, take all 5 of you out into the barriers, please, but just let us then have Robbo and Dandan fight to the finish, I suppose. Anyway, here we go then. Again, it is Vigo attempting the move on Man's Not Bob. This time, Vigo definitely got DRS, and also Appledorm gonna have DRS too, as they go down the inside. And that is Man's Not Bob off the track. Man's Not Bob slow. Man's Not Bob gonna have to pay the price. Also potentially losing out to Charlie Harris. Doesn't want to fight it too much here, I don't think, because gotta bear in mind Man's Not Bob hasn't got a penalty as of yet. Man's Not Bob holds on to P3 just about, and keeps then the, well, 3rd place ahead of Stewart. So lap then 33. Only 4 more laps to go. However, crucially, it is Vigo starting to pull a little bit of a gap out on Man's Not Bob. Bob right now 1.6 seconds behind. So it's important Bob kind of catches back up to Vigo and Appledorm if he's to take the win. So Appledorm and Vigo fighting it out then for right now the race victory here in round 2 of the season. Then it's Man's Not Vigo in, well, sorry, Man's Not Bob in 3rd place without a penalty. He would become the inherent winner. And it would be then Stewart in 4th place here, followed by Charlie at the moment in 5th. That would be your current finishing order, I believe. Of course, who knows if there is any penalties handed out at the end of the race. Certainly is a possibility of some. And it is Vigo right now leading the race from Appledorm in then 2nd place. Then it's Man's Not Bob in 3rd. And then Stewart in 4th. Charlie Harris is in 5th. So we are now on the penultimate lap of the race, and this could be the deciding lap actually for these drivers. So might want to sort themselves out a little bit here, as Stewart goes, well, Charlie goes up the inside. Vigo being overtaken by Appledorm, And that is going to be for now the race lead of the race. So Apeldoorn back into the race lead, followed by Mans Not Bob and Vigo. Mans Not Bob, though, so far, without a penalty, only got to survive one more lap then for Mans Not Bob in order to win this race. So it does look like a race win going the way of the Aston Martin driver of then Mans Not Bob, followed by Apeldoorn in, well, second place. Then it'll be Vigo, Charlie and Stewart. That will be your finishing top 5 at least. How is the drivers getting on behind? Right now, Dandan's got a good gap. Can Elliot finally make that pass? He's going off the track to try and do it. Not going to do it there, though. But we're going to go back to the battle for the race lead. Currently, Vigo's taken the lead then position, which will help him out now. Can Apeldoorn defend P2? No, he cannot. He's going to be behind Mans Not Bob. So, Vigo is going to win today's race. However, it is going to be Mans Not Bob who is going to come across the line in second place to take the ultimate victory due to not having penalties. So the Mercedes man from last to first, challenge completed. But for Mans Not Bob, it is going to be P2 enough today to take the victory. Mans Not Bob wins in Austria to secure victory. Then it's Vigo, then Apeldoorn, Charlie Harris in 4th, and it is Stewart in 5th. Here comes Dan across the line in 6th. Elliot is going to cross the line in 7th. However, Robbo is going to take that immediately back with 7th place of his own. Here comes Tom. Can he get himself promoted? In fact, he can, because Elliot had that many penalties, bumped down into 13th. So it is going to be Tom, Piano, Ralphie, Neil, and then Piers, Lange. In fact, even Piers has been bumped down then there. Morgan doesn't bump him down anymore. But yeah, that's a lot of penalties on to his time. Morgan crosses the line in 15th. Then we do have these final two battling out for the final spots on the track on the last lap, and it is going to be then the Aston Martin driver winning that one out. So there we go. That has been your Austrian Grand Prix. So it is Mans Not Bob climbing up onto the top step of the podium with the winner's trophy in first place and takes the win then there for Aston Martin. So here's your final rundown of the grid then today. So Mans Not Bob takes the win from Vigo in second, then Apeldoorn third, Charlie Harris fourth, then fifth is Stewart, sixth is Dan, seventh is Robbo, Tom is in eighth, ninth is Piano Jam, 10th is Ralphie. Outside the top 10, we have, obviously, Neil Piers with fastest lap, then Lange. 14th is Elliot, then 15th is Morgan. 16th, Brian. 17th is Nagel. Then Mafasa in 18th, and Gavin is in 19th, but did not finish, and same for Lucky Egg, not finishing today. So that has been ERL round number 2 for season 5, and until next week, see you then for what will be round number 3.